Thank you for joining me for tonight's edition of the Daily Intelligence Briefing from Protestia.com on September 7th, 2021. We have some headlines in the world of Christian polemics and other things that faithful believers may want to be apprised of. Our first headline, you know what, before that, let me remind you, I always forget to do this. Please, if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, tell your friends, ring the notification bell to be notified when we post the next video. And you can, I believe, select personalized or all. I think you should select all so you see them all whenever we post videos. If you haven't done that yet, that'd be awesome. So our headlines for today, coming to you from Protestia.com and other sources. The first one we want to get into is at CapstoneReport.com. John MacArthur was obedient to God and our government. Now, in this article at Capstone Report, they go through the details of how Grace Community Church, John MacArthur, their elders and their congregation were both faithful to God and they were faithful to the government by doing what they did and refusing to shut down in the face of pressure and persecution from Los Angeles County in the state of California. The article describes how it is obedient to God to gather for worship on Sunday morning, but also under our system of government where we recognize the God-given right to freedom of religion. It was actually Los Angeles County in California who were not submitting to the governing authorities, which is the supreme law of the land, the Constitution of the United States in our case. And it was John MacArthur, Pastor MacArthur, their elders, and their congregation who were actually the ones, by exercising their right to gather in freedom of religion, they were the ones who were actually appropriately submitting to Romans 13 and the governing authorities. The staff here at Protestia agrees with this article and that interpretation. I encourage you to go read this at CapstoneReport.com. John MacArthur was obedient to God and our government. Our next headlines here from ReligionNews.com, which is not a recommended source from us for orthodoxy, perhaps, but it is a news source that is pretty darn good at chronicling the downgrade. This from religionnews.com. In Texas, Reproductive Freedom Congregations catch on as new abortion law looms. As you can imagine, now that Texas's heartbeat law is in effect, this article was published a couple weeks ago, but it talks about quote-unquote churches, I'm going to put it in scare quotes, churches like the First Unitarian Church of Dallas, who have now adopted the moniker or have the label that, by the way, they had to earn, the label of quote-unquote reproductive freedom congregations. So these supposed churches are apparently places where it's safe to murder the unborn. They won't challenge you. In fact, they'll actually encourage it. These churches have gone through, and again, churches, because they're not actual churches of Jesus Christ. These are synagogues of Satan, but they call themselves churches, and the article does. They have to go through training. They go through training to earn the label Reproductive Freedom Congregations. And these quote-unquote reproductive freedom congregations, they learn about reproductive health care, also how to advocate for better access to services that include contraception is abortion in some cases, abortion, prenatal and pregnancy care, and comprehensive sex education. So if you want to go to somewhere that calls themselves a church, doesn't worship the true Jesus, doesn't believe in the true tenets of the Bible, and instead will advocate for reproductive health care, which, by the way, abortion is not. Abortion is not reproduction. It's actually the opposite of reproduction. It stops reproduction. It's actually murder. But if you want to go to one of these places that calls himself a church, while instead worshiping at the altar of abortion, you can choose one of these reproductive freedom congregations in Texas. Apparently, 25 organizations, 25 synagogues of Satan have earned this reproductive freedom congregations moniker by going through a whole bunch of classes and learning that apparently church is about abortion and pregnancy care and contraception and not about worshiping the Lord. Our next headline, also from religionnews.com, comparing Texas's abortion ban to Islamic law is inaccurate and perpetuates Islamophobia. Of course it does. Now, the experts that are cited in this article are making the case that as Texas's heartbeat bill went into law, was adopted into law, that, and a lot of liberals came out and started comparing those of us that are supporters of the law, those of us that are anti-abortion, abolitionist in terms of abortion, they started comparing us to Islamists and those that advocate for Sharia law, which, as some of you know, Sharia law advocates things like killing your wife if she doesn't do what you want her to do, honor killings, genital mutilation, horrible demonic things advocated by Sharia law. But apparently, according to these experts, you're giving those Islamists a bad name when you compare them to crazy anti-abortion Christians like yours truly. So according to these experts, comparing Islamists and those that support Sharia law to us, to evangelical Christians who are against abortion, makes Sharia law advocates look bad, makes the Islamists look bad. And you really should lay off that comparison because it perpetuates Islamophobia. You can see this article at religionnews.com making some very ridiculous claims. Not the article per se, but certainly the experts who are quoted in the article. One other little nugget from here, and I think this is important to know, something that you might not realize if you were a pro-life Christian. Sharia law actually supports abortion. Believe it or not, that's a little nugget from inside this article. And I'm gonna move down here to the poll quote. So this is, under Islamic law, the majority of medieval Muslim scholars allowed women to terminate a pregnancy before 120 days, says Abed Awad, a Rutgers adjunct law professor and national expert in Sharia and Islamic law. So, did you get that right? So under Sharia law, you can actually terminate a pregnancy before 120 days. Under the law of God, life begins at conception as he stitched you together in your mother's womb. We see from science, when new DNA is created, that is a new person. So under Christian law, under the law, biblical law, abortion is not allowed, but under Sharia law, it is. And for those of us who are faithful Christians who understand even a little bit about Islam, this is not surprising that Sharia law and the tenets of Islam that support murdering women, murdering the infidels, murdering Jews and Christians also supports murdering babies in the womb. Again, you can see this at religionnews.com for more details. Last but not least, I have a video. This video was published by the guys at notthebee.com. I would argue it's more of a Babylon Bee kind of a thing, but this is at Not the Bee's YouTube channel comparing Kamala Harris, which, by the way, I didn't know this. Did you realize that Kamala Harris has actually pronounced her first name several different ways? Like, she's so fake that she doesn't know whether it's Kamala or Kamala. She said it both ways. True story. I'll leave it up to you to find that one because I don't have the stuff pulled up right now. But I do have this little nugget pulled up. Yeah. She may be one of the fakest people I've ever seen in my entire life. And considering today's internet culture, that's saying something. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of the Daily Intelligence Briefing from Protestia.com. Go to Protestia.com for the latest headlines and subscribe to this YouTube channel to continue seeing these videos. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.